about that.
Hello and welcome to Wake Up Our Faith, the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside down living. My name is Matt Ham. This is Kevin Adams, and we're with you every week. This is our weekly broadcast from YouPrint, our faith and personal development organization, really aimed at helping people bridge the gap between Sundays, uncover their why, thrive in their gifts, and really press into and live the life of impact that they were created for. Our corporate partners make this show possible. We want to recognize and thank them. One of them being Physical Therapy Services of Wilmington. You can find them on the web, ptservicesofwilmington.com, serving southeastern North Carolina since 1983. If you have any needs regarding your physical therapy, give them a call, 910-763-8286. Also, the Honeycutt Group is a full-service insurance brokerage, family-owned and operated as well. Home, auto, life insurance. Chad and the team there, phenomenal help. 910-338-1773. Kevo, man, after a short reprieve from life, we're back at it, man. Back live.
So you have a beard of sorts.
I was dared.
Yeah.
I was dared. I was told that I could not be taken seriously unless I grew facial hair.
Wow.
I mean, it was a joke, but still.
Well, that's a good beard. That's that one never really goes out of style.
Yeah, it's not the heavy like lumberjack.
Some of these other ones, it's time to. It's a season change, guys.
Yeah, the pirate beard, as we call it, right?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm sure you find there's food and all kind of who knows what's up and sopped up in that deal.
So let me really go and tell the story. So this will be entertaining for half a minute. There was an article that came out that talked about shaving beards to prevent coronavirus. And this group of guys that I meet with on Monday night, they all have beards. And so I sent it to them to make them mad. And they all said, one guy said, I would rather lick a doorknob in China than shave my beard.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that was too much. And he said, you need to grow one out. So I said, all right, I'll do it. Anyway, okay. Full story, man.
Okay.
Full story. So today, let's dive into this topic of helping people understand their value.
Okay.
And the way that you've always said this is that we have to understand that we are priceless to God.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that people really get to the grit of that into their heart and truly understand it.
Right.
So we'll start there and kind of head off in that trajectory.
Okay. Well, there's so many different plots or dots along the line. But I think the way we kind of look at this, we want to look at things the way God does. I mean, faith is really taking on God's viewpoint. That's what faith ultimately means. You see things the way He does. And so there's a lot of different sort of things that help you, that foster that from all different angles. But one of the things is to understand not just that you are valuable and that you're His. There's an intimate relationship there, but that the markers of your value are already in you. They're in the desires of your heart. So God wouldn't give you something that He hasn't already given you. It's already there, but He waits for you to delight yourself in Him. In other words, to begin to walk with Him, to understand Him, and to let go of your will. When you do that, He says He gives you the desires of your heart. Well, He's not linear. So it's already done. It's already in you. He designed it. So really now you're getting to twofold thing in seeing your value, at least through one keyhole, and that is when you let go of your will and then you step into the desires of your heart. So we can talk through all that, but that's a way to begin to understand your value.
So tying your value to the things that God has placed in your heart,
yes.
The desires of the heart.
Yeah.
And so when I remember yesterday, I was talking with a gentleman who maybe had forgotten that idea of the desires of his heart, or had put him in the back burner because of past pain or whatnot.
Sure.
How do you help folks unlock the desire of the heart?
Well, I think you have to do that by beginning to understand what's in the way. What are the obstacles? So one of the big things is not walking by faith, and that a lot of times we think we got to grind it out kind of thing, but it's more about understanding God's viewpoint. And so a lot of people are navigating without realizing it by strongholds.
Mm-hmm.
What are strongholds? Well, they're influences of the enemy, like little lines that are connected to us. We belong to God. We're His vessel. But we can still have our behavior influenced by the enemy, by rejection, an orphan spirit, or pain or trauma of some sort, and even fear. Of course, fear is ultimately the pathway for these things. So God doesn't want any of us to think this way, but a lot of people, they gave their hearts to Him, but they are still living life from that place.
Yeah.
In other words, they're moving around unproductively by the enemy's influence without knowing it. It's not evil intent. It's just if you feel rejected, you're going to see rejection. You're going to see, someone not shake your hand. You're going to feel invisible. You're going to see the waiter doesn't ask you for your drink order.
So you've got people who we would say believe in the Lord and would be redeemed, but they're not living from the fullness of John 10:10, which Jesus said, "I came they have life and have it abundantly."
Right.
Because they are living still attached and tethered to their strongholds, their pains, and it's kind of this subtle space they don't even understand.
Right.
So they can't tap into the desires of the heart because it's like the strongholds are like a lid on the desire of the heart.
Right. Well, and we can easily, through rationale and logic and reason and Greek thinking, follow it and argue it. But it's an inferior argument. It's not how God thinks or argues it, if He even had to. But we do that. It's like, we've got to understand that being led by our five senses is not what God wants for us. So we say walk by faith. The Bible teaches us to walk by faith. So, we say, okay, well, I'm not going to look. But it's not just about eyeballs. I mean, even a blind guy needs to walk by faith. So what is it about? It's not about your eyeballs. It's about your five senses, your connection to the world around you, and not letting that lead you because you're supposed to be led from heaven through the Spirit. So putting things in right order is the goal. How do you even begin to step out of one to the other? Is you have to begin to understand strongholds, what they are, where they come from, and just gently step into that. It helps to have some good mentoring discipleship. But at the same time, you want to step into the things where God's put them in you and not talk yourself out of them. So, one example is a single mom who we've been able to help recently. When we first started talking, she was not even allowing herself to remember her dream and the thing that she felt like she wanted to do, which was design. And I'll just leave it there, but on that. But she was so bound up in just the pain and struggle of getting through everyday life and the obstacles, and then, well, how could that ever be? And the industry saturated. So her dream is crushed over here, and she's putting out fires and just barely surviving, and she's miserable. And, and instead of being this flourishing, thriving flower in full bloom that God intended her to be. But walking through this from a spiritual place outward, now she's in a place now where she's excited. We've been able to help her. But it's great because now she's beginning to dream again. She's beginning to see opportunities show up. So the desires were already there. People talk themselves out of them because they can't see, but that's because they're looking with their five senses instead of the Spirit.
Yeah, well, that's a really powerful construct to really start to break down and understand. Because I think a lot of folks, do you think it's possible for someone to truly be able to dream and step into their dreams without being free of the strongholds?
Yeah, I do. It's kind of like you eat a meal. I mean, you don't gulp it in one thing. You have to give yourself permission to have. The idea is just to have a bad day or whatever. The idea is to just gently plant seeds, get first downs, gently step into this, and let God take you through. If you're on a football field and your job is to hike the ball to the quarterback, then you just start hiking it. And or you block or whatever. You don't have to take on the weight of it all in one fell swoop. Well, I got to study the Bible 4 hours a day and all this. So you just take one baby step, and then you keep doing that and keep doing that. And we can talk about what that looks like. But I think you ultimately can't realize the fruit of it without getting free. But God will free you, but you have to believe that that's even possible. Yeah. So you have to have a little fight in you.
So the tensions of life and the struggles and the challenges that are birthed through our strongholds are intended to remind us that there's a dream that God placed inside of us, a purpose that He placed inside of us that we're not attaining because we're living from this thing. Yeah. And in order to step into that, we have to be willing to do the difficult work of being freed.
Yeah, and let's look at it this way, and we'll come back here in a second, but what if when the enemy said to Jesus on the mountain, one of the things he said is, here's the kingdoms of the world, if you bow down to me, I'll give them to you. Now, how did Jesus handle that? Well, he didn't go by what he was seeing. He went by what he knew. Mm-hmm. And what he knew was it was already his. Yeah, he had didn't need to bow down to the joker. Yes. So we need to take that. So there's a little fight in that. There's a little get away from me. Yes. And let's go forward. You got to have a little bit of that to take that step. But if you do that, God will. God will. This thing's loud, isn't it?
Well, you turn it up. That was your sleep alarm.
Yeah. But anyway, so we'll come back. We'll finish up the next segment.
All right. Well, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more Wake Up Our Faith right after this. Hello and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith, the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. This is a weekly broadcast from YouPrint Faith Personal Development. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams with you. Appreciate you guys jumping on. We love to know where you guys are listening from and what you're kind of gleaning off the ideas that we share. Any questions that you guys have, you can leave them in the comments there on Facebook or YouTube. We would love to connect with you further. Of course, you can press in and connect with us on the web, youprint.life, youprint.life. We've created the Portable Faith Community, which is a dynamic way to be able to participate in the innovative charitable movement that we are a part of here called the Life Center. So your contributions are tax deductible. They go to foster the kingdom work here in the city to help remove obstacles so that people can step into their heavenly value here on earth. And it helps with the mentoring process, all the above. And you get great content right to your phone each and every day. You can check that out at wakeupmyfaith.com. Would love for you guys to participate and be a part of that. Our corporate partners help us make the show possible and kind of come alongside us in this community. One is Dr. Greg Veman of Seacoast Skin Surgery and his ministry, Everlasting Strength. You can find him on the web, everlastingstrength.org, by phone 910-256-2100. Also, Century 21 Swalyer and Associates, the Carolinas' largest, most successful Century 21 agency, 30 years in the business of buying and selling real estate, 910-256-0021, and Chris Hutchins with Guaranteed Rate Mortgage. Chris and his team have hundreds of years of experience between all of the members. The rates right now are as good as they've ever been. If you need to buy or refinance your home, make sure to give them a call, 910-344-0304. Kev, we're talking about a really important concept today about helping people understand their value, press into the desires of their heart, which requires them to be delivered from and overcome the strongholds that are holding them back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so your value is what God paid for you beginning but that's just the beginning. If you can't talk yourself out of, Jesus paid the price for you. So what do you do with that?
Right.
So from ground zero, the argument's done. So then, now that you know that and agree with it, what do you do with it? And that's where you begin to just gently walk into this process of discipleship. Well, that process looks like removing obstacles, spiritual and physical, but especially spiritual. You have to have that.
Yes.
Otherwise, it doesn't last. But that's the goal here. The other side of it is where you're going to. So not just what are you getting free from. Jesus gave us the power and authority to be free. But we have to let him do the work, and that's preparation. It takes time, but it removes all that stuff. But you also have to be going somewhere. So how do you know where to go? Well, the desires of your heart are already sort of the brushstrokes or the things that call to your heart. And we use a tree idea where you begin to work from the bottom up. And so, but the tree it has fruit on it, and we're even working on some graphics to help put in workbooks and all that to help people work through this. But so those desires are not linear. They're things that God shows you in a moment, or you've been thinking of, or been wondering about. Like this young lady we were talking about a minute ago, who wants to design and interior design, and is no doubt gifted in that, but just couldn't get anywhere near that because of all the gunk in her mind, not on her, but things that the enemy was keeping her from doing that. The enemy wants to keep you from carrying out what God's put in your heart.
100%, yeah.
And so you've got to remove all that. But at the same time, it's twofold. You've got to begin to dream. And so the desires of your heart, we look at them as pieces of fruit. Well, that fruit, though, a lot of people, even there, well, that's just selfish and, whatever. Okay, well, that's fine. That's like saying just be a robot then, or let go of it all. It's not selfish to be who God made you.
Yes.
So it's the enemy is using that crafty argument to pull people into that. And so when you're not walking by faith, then you go back to reason and logic, and you end up there again. So all that said, let's talk about what a desire of the heart is through and through. What happens with it? Is it just for you to be satisfied? Part of it, but there's way more than that. So think of a piece of fruit on a tree, and I usually have an apple. You can make it a peach or whatever. It needs to be on a tree. But so you think of the desire of your heart equals something for others, and that's fruit for others, which means it's a blessing to others. And then the third thing is it's God's glory. So when you think of that piece of fruit, when you're considering and meditating on the things and stepping into those desires, remember when you see, and again, we're just using fruit as an illustration, but a good tree bears good fruit. So even that's biblical. But if you see it as an apple tree the way I do, then what are the apples? What do they look like? What are the roots of the tree? What is all this? It's all built on pleasing your Father, number one. Number two, people, carrying out your mission. And then all the way up to the things that even childlike desires that you have. But those things are not just for your satisfaction. And I'm not saying it like a school teacher. I'm saying it, guess what? They're multifold.
Yeah.
The desire of my heart becomes Matt's blessing because I love to do this. That's good for you. All right? So I'm talking about mentoring,
sure.
Not being a podcaster. Maybe, and that's, but so the desire of your heart becomes a blessing for someone else. So what does it do? It satisfies your soul, and it blesses them. It feeds them.
Others, yeah.
And who is glorified in that?
God.
God is glorified. And especially when it's something you couldn't have done, even better.
Yeah.
So those three things are what that fruit does.
I think that the powerful thing that I'm really feeling here is so often in the Christian church and kind of in Western Christian culture, it's almost like we repress the desires of our heart because they're somehow bad.
Yeah.
And so we live in this way where we don't dream anymore.
That's
and
right.
we think that if we had a dream about starting a business or being a speaker or, whatever the case might be, that's somehow our will and not the Father's will.
Right.
And so we become robotic, repress that stuff, and become miserable, grumpy, old Christian people.
Right.
And I think the powerful thing that we see is in the kingdom, God created individuals in His image to bear the fruit of the desires of their heart, to feed others to His glory.
Yeah.
And that like people have to slow down to see that picture and understand that's why we're here. And of course, that's what we do.
It's the only reason we remain here after we're His.
Yeah.
What else is there? Why would we be here? Just to waste time and consume?
Yeah.
No, we're not here to consume. We're here to give. What do we get? Him. How does it work? Through who you are.
Yeah.
Got to find out who you are first.
Yeah.
So all of that, one doorway, go back to the very beginning, is to begin to let yourself remember the desires of your heart. In other words, your heart follows the loudest voice. And you want to edify the Spirit by the Word and time with God, the Father. And when you do that, your heart will start to follow because that voice gets louder. What does the Word also do? It renews your mind. It gives you peace. So your heart won't follow that chirping voice of there's a bill or all this disease or all this stuff that's fearful.
Yeah.
Your heart won't follow that anymore. So when you have those things, you won't let them in there anymore. And there's a buffer. But then the desires of your heart become more preeminent. But you're right. People talk themselves out of it because, they want to pull out, cherry-pick scripture. Well, heart's desperately wicked. Yeah, if you don't belong to God, it is. Sure. But we're redeemed. You can go to a church. Some churches will say, you're sinners. You dirty sinners.
Yes, gosh.
And it's like, I remember Holly and I ran. She went to the bathroom and I ran out the back door and I thought I was. I'm like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
These people are condemning us when
Yes.
Jesus hasn't.
Yeah, amen.
And there's a lot of that out there, but by well-intentioned people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons we won't step into those desires or talk ourselves out of them.
Well, to that point, and I'm glad you brought that up, that is one of the most frustrating things in the world for me, is a redeemed believer in Jesus who calls themselves a sinner. And because you're refusing the blessing of Christ.
That's right.
Which says there is therefore now no longer condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And no wonder we wouldn't trust in the dreams or desires of our heart if we think we're these wicked, lowly sinners. It's like we walk around beating ourselves on the back, and that's not who we were created to be.
That's more pharisaical. What it ultimately is saying is man is God.
Yeah.
Man's more merciful and smarter than God, so let's just go down that path. Well, it leads to death. It doesn't lead to anywhere. But we feel like we've got to do it because He won't. Why is that? Because you don't really believe.
Yeah.
So your prayers need to be confident prayers, joyful prayers. Like if your Father is the King, you're a prince. Well, you're not. It's done. You still got work to do, but the work's coming from Him now. So yes, the obstacles are spiritual obstacles primarily, but then they also manifest physically. And so the enemy has a fortress with hooks in us and keeps us far away from it. Doesn't mean we're not saved. It means we can't be productive on earth the way God intended. And imagine if Jesus would have fallen into that. I mean, the Word says He learned obedience through suffering. So we've got to learn how to either let go, or God is generous and loving enough to let us go through pain and loss. Pain and loss. Or let go. Yeah. That's our choice.
You choose.
When you let go, God is gentle with you. When you don't, it's harder.
Yeah.
So all that said, His whole goal is to get you to understand how much He loves you and what He's done in just making you. So once you grab hold of that truth, then you gently go back and keep planting seeds there. And you'll start seeing it germinate.
Yeah.
That's where the power of God is so clear. You can see He says stuff to you. You can bank on it. You can count on it. So here's another area people get off. They get wrapped up in their own will. They don't understand that their will and the desires are two different things. Our will is about making it happen. How? I got to know how. It's all about process.
Yeah.
Or how long? And we got to get away from that and get to why. Why? When we're focused on why, that comes from a different place.
Yeah.
Your desires will already carry out that why. Just gently step in.
Yeah. So step into the why.
Step into the why, but remember, so we're adding some dimension to this. So someone just says, well, yeah, but that's just selfish. Okay, fine. If you want to think that way, then let go of the desires of your heart. God says He's going to give them to you. He's not evil. He doesn't give you evil. So why would He give you something that's evil? So you can't argue this. But even if you try, remember, those desires, the things that God puts in your heart to carry out, to go do, they satisfy something in you because you're shaped that way. If you're a designer, if you're a teacher, if you're a musician, if you're an accountant, God gave you that and you love doing that. Guess what happens? It satisfies your soul. A hammer loves to be a hammer. It doesn't need to try to be a screwdriver. But what does it do for others? Well, it builds houses for others. Because that tree that comes from that seed can feed a lot of people. So when we do this, it's not only organic, it's exponential because it's now based on God's technology and economy, not man's. Man's is, I got to hold on, I got to grab, I got to take, I got to keep, I got to preserve. That's willpower. Willpower does not redeem anything. It can get you through a moment, but it's just not good enough. And it's not from God as a leader. Well, guys, I want to encourage you, and this is this may be a new dynamic or idea for folks, but we just encourage you to press in, and that's what we're here for, to really help birth those desires of the heart out into the world to feed others to the glory of God. That's the purpose of the Christian life, period. And we want to help you with that. If anybody has any questions or wants to connect, you can do so on our site, youprint.life, youprint.life. Don't go anywhere. Back for the second segment of our show, Wake Up Our Faith in Business, right after this. Hey everybody, and welcome to the second segment of our broadcast here. This is Faith in Business. We talk about how to live out your faith, where you spend the majority of your time. For most folks, that is in between Sundays, where you live, work, and spend your life. And Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, we're the co-founders of YouPrint, a faith and personal development organization. Thanks for joining us today, those who are, or those who might be catching us on the podcast. We always encourage you to reach out to us, leave us a review. Don't know how all that works, but it does help. So we appreciate that. The corporate partners make this show possible. I want to recognize and thank them. One of them being Freeman Landscaping. This is Southeastern North Carolina's largest privately owned landscaping and irrigation firm, serving Eastern North Carolina since 1992. 910-796-1166. Also, the Rising Tide team. This is a full-service real estate team representing both buyers and sellers. The market is incredible right now in Southeastern North Carolina. Reach out to them, 910-620-7177. Kev, today we've been talking about in the first segment the idea of the desires of our heart and how they were placed there by God in order to satisfy us, feed others, and bring Him glory. As we tie that dynamic into business, I really want to press into those who listen or tune in that
there is something entrepreneurial, business-minded, kingdom business-minded that God's placed in people.
Absolutely.
And so many folks, I think, are just going through the motions of doing the job that they hate. I even had a phone conversation with a guy this morning. He's like, man, I'm just tired of suffering and struggling through this thing, and it just sucks so bad, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, why do you keep doing it then? But people get in this rote mentality of like, well, I just got to do this because XYZ. So I want to speak directly.
It's slavery.
Yeah, it is.
And
Amen.
Jesus came to set us free from that.
Amen.
So anyway,
I want to break that thing off. Let's break that thing off and help people to come alive again and start to dream with God and be a blessing in the world for the kingdom.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things especially when you take it into business, is you got one side of this is God is a dreamer. God thinks things up, and He made us like Him to do that. We're a piece or an extension on earth. We're not God, but we are His vessels and, hands and feet and parts. So when you take that into the world of business, which is, the way that this world commerce, it functions, it's the way transactions happen. We've talked about this before. So all that's wonderful. What isn't wonderful is corruption and ill thinking, and when we get, it's like you get off kilter, you get a tire that's out of balance. One of the jobs I've had over the years was balancing tires. And it's crazy, man. Those things get off and your tire starts to get warped.
Yep.
And you really get it jacked up if your alignment's out or it's out of balance. So this is about saying, who am I? What am I here for? Where am I going? And it's not about if you hate your job or not. It's about saying, okay, here's where I'm at. Where's God taken me? And making the spiritual investment so that the physical will follow. So one of the enemies of that is, the same thing in your personal, private moments. It's getting into a mindset where you feel like a slave, where you're trapped. And we all have moments where we kind of fall on the sword or we get mad. And it doesn't need to be moments. They don't need to be the mode.
Mindsets, yeah.
Yeah, because it'll rot you from the inside out and kill you. So give yourself permission to have a moment in traffic once in a while, or have a bad day. Or, I had a really rough week a couple weeks ago. And it seems like there's been about 2 or 3 in a row. So I'm tired. But at the same time, I'm calm and I feel excited about the future. I need rest, but I'm still seeing it with sickness and different things. Okay, I see that. I'm not ignoring it, but we're going forward. So in our business, we're plugging new things in. We're working through systems. We're innovating. We're still carrying on. We're seeing great fruit. We're seeing more people come in and say, I want that. I want to do that part of Life Center. I want that to be. That's my area.
Yeah.
And we're like, yes, this is the church, but it's a church the way it's supposed to function. You bring what you have, which is really who you are. And so all that said, if people are jacked up with stuff, they can't live that out. And so in business, you've got to, that dreaming part of it, you see it through history. The great innovations in history.
Yes.
I'm not saying they all honored God, right? But you can see God still, we give Him credit for it.
Yes.
You can see the only thing that moves the ball it's not about hard work. It's about innovation. It's about dreaming. It's about stepping into those things with courage. You can't deny it. You have to go.
Yeah. This week, I don't know why, the Lord has been speaking to me about First in Flight, North Carolina, Wright brothers, and this idea of the airplane. Like, that's pretty wild when you get to the nuts and bolts of, I'm going to fly through the air.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, that took an incredible amount of courage and persistence by them. And,
that's right.
And yet we kind of overlook it.
Yeah.
But that broke something open that allowed international travel and just the world functioning the way it does today. Right. It dynamically transformed the world around it because they were willing to step in.
Right.
The challenge is, most people, when you talk to them, they would go, oh, well, that's the Wright brothers. And that's the thing that I just want to smack some people with and say, okay, so what? You're just supposed to be Nobody?
Right. Yeah, and that's the enemy. It's not about measuring it in terms of people or financial or any of that. It's about measuring it by saying, I see what God's put in my heart. Look, if you're a guy that likes to paint, then who cares if you're creating aircraft? You don't. There's no comparison. You're a one-off. We are an original of the species, every single one of us. So, we're God's creation, but we're corporate, we're family, but we're also very, very individual. So carrying that out automatically will change the world. You don't have to figure it out. You have to step into it and let Him show you more and show you more. And it's exciting. It's like getting on a boat and going, okay, we're going somewhere, and I'm excited, and it's changing me, and it's helping me, and it's helping others. Or you can just stay on the dock and go back to what you know. Most people go back because they're afraid, or they want to hold on, they want to hunker down, and it's the same. It's no different than hoarding food because there's a virus or because a storm's coming. How does a grocery store look when there's a hurricane may turn left or whatever?
Right.
We need to be good stewards, but I mean, come on, is that from God? So to be free of that, you get to lead. You get to innovate. There's innovation in everybody.
Yeah.
No one can do it exactly the way you can. And that piece of fruit, you can look at it and you go, man, I got to birth that from heaven into the earth, and look at all the people that's helping. That's one way of looking at it. Or that one person that it needed to help who's going to help a lot of other people.
Absolutely.
Billy Graham's mentor, for instance.
Yeah.
So it's not about you. It's measuring it by the obedience of it, by knowing that God, it satisfies your soul to go do it. That means starting a business. Amen. We want to foster that. But where are you spiritually? Where are you along the way? What are the obstacles?
Yeah.
And let's clear the obstacles and then set you free so you can go do that.
Well, if you're trying,
that changes the world.
If you're trying to birth that thing without the freedom required to do it well, that's when it's a fledgling and it fails so often because it's still wrapped up in so many things. It's not that the dream is wrong or bad.
Right.
It's that you weren't free to pursue the dream fully.
Right.
And you were still shackled to old ways and old perceptions.
But the thing is, you have to develop your spiritual muscle. Because, sometimes if we get up here and we're led by culture and things, we think we're supposed to do something that we're not.
Yeah.
And that's where you see, these, you want to go bless their heart, these people like on American Idol who just can't sing worth a flip, and then they're mad and over here. And it's like, if that's what you're meant to do, then God would open that up for you. Mm-hmm. So we have to listen to the Spirit, not culture. So I would argue that a lot of that is just, looking for fame or wealth or the accoutrements of some of the things that come from innovation. But true innovators, they don't care. They will go no matter what. They'll play the pubs. They'll work all night. They'll go because they're moved by passion. So let's look at that as two-sided coin here. And this is where people get off. You've got the creative vessel, and then you've got the other side of that coin, which is the advocacy. So you have to step into that. We're talking about a type of desire that can be used in business to generate and change business. You want to understand who you are creatively. What's the brushstroke look like? What do you love to do? What works for you? Stepping in more and more, God will show you. Well, that's not enough, because then it can turn into this big wide thing where you never make any progress. But when you flip that over and you connect it to what pisses you off, where's injustice, whose advocate are you, and you tie those two things together, it will start showing up, and it will begin to change the world one person at a time. And Mother Teresa is a great example of that, But we all have that. There's nothing keeping us from that. We just have to learn to navigate a different way. So, that takes consistency, which we can talk about in our last
So,
segment.
innovation and advocacy.
You want to dream and let the creative juices fly. You want to start seeing what is it that you love to do that just God expresses himself through. But then you've got to think the other side of that coin is, so you've got, that's passion, then you've got compassion. Two-sided coin, passion and compassion.
I like that.
You put that together and it's an unstoppable force.
Right.
And so that also, thanks. But so anyway, you just think about, we're trying to take more and more gentle steps with this thing rather than just talking about dreams and desires. Yeah. What does it look like? It's like saying the will. What does the will look like? Well, the will manifests itself in a practicality by the how and the how long. What does your will look like? When you start saying how all the time and how long, now you're not thinking about why.
That's the will, yep.
And you got to get away from that and go for the why. And what happens? People come along and they're dream killers. Well, someone cannot judge your experience with God from their inexperience of it. So you can let them say it and then be kind and move on. But anyway, so the idea there is to dream, let yourself be creative, but then remember the other side of that. And this is what I coach people to do, is to flip it over, look at, what's the why in both of those?
Yeah.
Who are you here for? Whose lives, what is difficult when you see it and you just want to fix it?
Yeah. Good stuff. Guys, we're going to take a short break and be back for the last segment of Wake Up Our Faith in Business right after this. Hello and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith in Business. This is a weekly broadcast where we talk about living out your faith between Sundays, where you spend the majority of your time. I want to make sure you guys are aware that we are having our next live gathering, Faith in Business gathering, on March 19th. 7:30 a.m. at Waterman's Brewing right here in Wilmington. You can go to our YouTube page and see where you can, our Facebook page, see where you can get tickets for that. It's absolutely free, but we would ask that you kind of reserve a seat there because it's been fairly full as of late, and we want to make sure that we know how many folks to prepare for. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, we're here every week. Want to recognize our corporate partners for making this possible. One of those being Chris Riley, our good friend Chris Riley at Fountain Financial Associates. They're in the process, I believe, of merging and becoming a new entity, so we're excited to be sharing that with you here soon. But they can still be reached at 910-256-8882 if you have any needs regarding long-term financial plans. Also, Melissa the coach. Melissa is a speaker, personal finance coach, and she helps folks declutter their life so that they can step into who God's created them to be. You can reach out to her, melissathecoach@gmail.com, or on the web, melissathecoach.com. Kev, today we've talked about a lot of really dynamic things about innovation. I love what you said last segment about passion and compassion, how we can't just have one, we have to have both. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you said before we left was the idea of consistency. And I want to press into that a little bit because I think so many folks start to go down the path of dreaming and getting excited and pressing into the Lord,
right?
But then circumstances or dream killers, as you said, come along, and it just boom, it deflates them,
right?
And then
that's the enemy's goal,
sure. And if it happens enough, what people do is just give up on it altogether.
Right.
So the idea of consistency and persistence, it's not about willpower.
Right.
But it is an element that we have to have. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, people consistently say things that are used by the enemy. For example, I'm just impatient. Or I'm just this. Instead of crossing the line, they stay on this side of begging. They believe, but they don't really believe God's goodness. They just believe, it's sort of a wrestling match where if they pray right, or they pray enough, or pray hard enough, and then maybe then the person will be healed, or maybe then God will show up. And that's not a good father. That's just mankind's, thing. It's not real. It's the enemy, actually. So our job isn't to work harder. It's to let go. And what are we letting go of? That will. But when we do that, what fills the gap? It's God's just joy and dreaming and all these wonderful things that He meant for us. So in doing that, one of the enemies that I find in mentoring is inconsistency. So it's not just about making people feel good or whole or alive in a moment. It's about helping them develop the tools to carry it with them. So what do those tools look like? Well, they're not necessarily a toolbox, but some of them are different practices we teach and studying in certain ways. Well, one of the biggest things is simply consistency. What that means is you don't have to haul off and run out of the stadium. You don't have to win it overnight. You just have to make one move, get 1 yard, get 1 inch, take 1 step. And what does that look like? That looks like farming. That looks like plant a seed. Plant 1 seed. Write 1 verse.
Yeah.
Sing 1 song. Go hug 1 person. Buy a cup of coffee. Start the movement, and the audience will come for whatever it is you want to do. Where the world says, build your platform, build your audience, and then one day you can sell a bunch of books. No, just write.
Yes.
Just love on people.
Yes.
So that's the difference. Consistency has to come from hunger, not hard work. But you still have to get out of bed and put your swim trunks on to go to the pool.
So, this reminds me of when we first met. I was loaded up in mindsets and strongholds and just kind of that, striving Western Christian doer, willpower. I got this kind of thing. And, I remember that, this is one of the things that you helped press out of me when it came to just birthing this thing that we now do as our life. And I just remember so often going, Kevin, how are we going to do this? Or how are we going to get these people? Or how can I get more of this? And the one thing you said is just keep planting seeds. And I remember it came with a really powerful vision that you shared. And you said you saw me. There was a circus tent on one side and a field on the other side. And you said you've got to go to the field and plant seeds, and then you've got to go to the tent and perform, not in a weird way, but perform. Be you in that arena, in that environment. But when you're not doing that, be over here in the field sowing seeds. Right. Well, I pushed back on that. I was like, I'm tired of sowing seeds. I'm tired of being out here. But what's beautiful to me now is the truth of that has manifest by the seeds taking root. And there are countless people that we get to walk with now because of the faithful seeds that were sown 2 years ago.
Right.
And that is, I'm just as a testimony to someone out there who doesn't quite get this, is that is the mode you have to be in if you want to step into all that God has for you.
Right. That's right. And the other thing is that's being like Jesus. We need to act like Jesus by understanding sonship and what that actually looks like. Well, that's consistency, right? Oh, we got some time. So Jesus was never inefficient. He never competed. He was always right on track. But what was he doing? He was gentle. He was firm and joyful. And even when he got angry, which is fine, he was efficient. He made his point and moved on. So there's this amazing thing that begins to happen. So it's like saying, I'm gonna go plant seeds. I'm gonna be a farmer. I'm gonna do it quick. Have you ever seen a farmer do it quick?
Yeah.
Is that even possible?
No.
No, it's not. Why is it not? Because God has to train us for the answers to our prayers. He has to, every heavenly calling has an earthly preparation. So when you carry that out into the business thing, it's not saying you're not throwing all the rules away. You're just saying those things are not what leads me.
They're not on the throne.
Yeah. I mean, big social media following's nice, but if your focus is on that so you can sell a bunch of crap on whatever, then it's just like watered down Kool-Aid crap, and it won't be sustained.
Yeah.
But if God says, hey, create this, write that, I'm putting this in you, go design that, sing that song, go change people's lives in the insurance business because your heart is there to help them. Or like Will Musselwhite.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy wants to help people. Just find the right place to live, and he means it. That is a movement.
Yes.
Everything else conspires. It's a better way to do it than you carrying it. So, and it'll also flourish. So our part of why we created YouPrint was so we could show people you can build a business on faith. You still have to have good practices. You still have to learn. Your gifts come together. But this isn't, we'll do fine in it, but we're paying the price right now. But we're doing it to show people you can do it.
Sure.
And then on the other side, we want to create an environment where people can have their physical and spiritual needs met so that they can go do it.
Right. Turn around and do it to somebody else.
Exactly. And so now we've got, what we see now is that process, those seeds, planting those seeds. What are we seeing germinate? We're seeing we now have legal, we have business mentoring, we have financial mentoring, we have all kind of spiritual training. We've got the cleanse now. People are going through that, and it's starting to get that connectivity that we've been longing for.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you plant seeds.
It takes time.
Yeah. It does.
It takes time.
And it needs to.
It should.
Because you're not ready.
But yeah, exactly. Prepared along the way.
Exactly.
You think if somebody said, well, I'm ready now. You told me this the other day. Yeah. You said, I think when I first met you, you said you thought you were ready. And I think now you realize that you weren't. But now you're becoming more ready. And that's a beautiful thing, man. So many people think they're ready to steward the blessing of the Lord when they're really not.
That's right. God has to remove the compromises, and we all are susceptible to those things until they're removed. So I have a picture, and I use it sometimes. It's a hiking trip I did for years, but there is an outdoor stairway, and this was in Tennessee, so the stairs are icy, and there's a tree right in the middle of the stairway. I guess, nature guys, they didn't want to cut the tree down. But it's great because you see it immediately. You see this tree in the stairway, and you go, whoa, it's slippery. That thing's in my way. I got to navigate this thing. But what God's saying is the tree, embrace it, and you can pull yourself around it. The obstacles become the things that propel us forward. They grow us, they prepare us, and this is Paul now saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I went through all this. And I count all that as rubbish because it's inferior, even though they call us fools.
Amen.
So what?
Yeah.
He doesn't. And so anyway, when you're thinking about it in terms of faith in business, you want to be excellent, you want to innovate, you want to dream, you want to lead from a place of example. And all this is, the enemy to that is fear, worry. I got to hunker down and hoard, and I got to keep from instead of giving.
Yeah.
Think about, I'll say this last thing, this is kind of a weird picture, but our job is to be excellent vessels because we are carriers of perfection. We aren't perfect, but He is.
He is. And
we are in this place. We can be the redeemed vessels. But think about it like carrying an egg. The egg is the perfect thing, whereas, there we go. The egg is the perfect thing. So our job is to be that like little nest and carry the egg from one place to another. If I can bring Jesus to you or His wisdom in some way, then that perfection takes root, etc. So it doesn't make me perfect, but I get to be excellent And the best way to be excellent is to be who you are.
Right.
It just can't fail. A screwdriver being a screwdriver is a way better thing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it's a lot to it, but think about it's an organic way to live out your faith in something that doesn't seem organic, like business.
Sure.
You know.
Well, it's the most powerful thing that we have, and our heart is certainly to see people stepping into that and becoming that more excellent vessel.
Yeah.
And in that, we're going back to what we said, is that you get to live out the desires of your heart, which satisfies you. That in turn is fruit that feeds others, and God is glorified. And that is just such a great picture of what the Christian life is supposed to be about.
It is,
instead of all the junk that it's become in culture. And we've got to be the ones who stand up and move in a new direction.
Yeah. Last thought. Think about all the people that you kind of admire, whether they're believers or not, but you just admire their courage and carry out something in this world. What's the thing that they have that's so unique? It's that thing they follow their heart. And God doesn't always get credit, but He's still the one who did it.
Amen.
You know, so we all have that in us.
Yeah, be those kinds of people. Amen.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us this week. This is Wake Up Our Faith. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams. Again, would invite you to connect with us online, youprint.life, youprint.life. As always, if you need anything, we're here for you. Have a great week.